A psychiatrist's murder sparks an investigation in the Las Vegas desert.
This looks like somebody's grandfather here. We knew right away that it was a different type of murder.
When evidence points to a Playboy model, investigators delve into a world of fame, money, and manipulation.
The places that she would be out with me at are literally the #1 nightclubs in all of Hollywood.
She goes by the nickname Bad Barbie. She ends up on the covers of a couple of magazines.
As the strange case unfolds, the surprises never stop.
She told me he was like her sugar daddy.
I initially had estimated expenses at about $300,000. I said, you know, this is bad. You need to get out of this.
She had control over him. He was just a meal ticket.
But more suspects emerge.
We found a bat with his name on it. This is a slam dunk.
We discovered her boyfriend had recently completed a prison term here in Nevada.
He had a gun that was covered in blood. She was kicking him, hitting him, screaming at him. He told me that he hopes that they don't kill me too.
Las Vegas, Nevada is internationally known for its gambling and nightlife.
Las Vegas is a place where you can, come and let loose. It ends up sticking with people, and it ends up carrying them to another place.
But on March 7th, 2019, it seems one visitor's stay has taken a turn for the worse when police receive an unsettling call.
We had a citizen out four-wheeling in his new pickup, and he sees a Mercedes-Benz, a little two-door coupe, where no little two-wheel drive coupe should be. He thought the car was stolen.
When patrolmen arrive at the scene, the caller is gone, but the car is right where they said it would be.
They were gonna do an inventory of the car and just have it towed out of there. They open up the doors. There was a lot of blood spatter evidence within the car.
The blood was found primarily in the back seat, behind the driver's seat, and on the headliner.
The officers immediately call for backup and check the rest of the vehicle.
And when they opened up the trunk, there was a bunch of bedding. When they were able to part some of the bedding, they came across what appeared to be a human arm. They made notification to the homicide section, and that's how my partner and I became aware of the call. My partner, Detective Ryan Jager, and I drove out to eastern Clark County.
We carefully documented everything that's in the car, and then we towed the whole car with the body in it back to the CSA, our crime lab. Once it was in our garage where it was a more controlled environment, we removed the body. I remember looking at it, it was just kind of like, this looks like somebody's grandfather here. He was wearing like a sweater vest with a bow tie. This didn't look like a guy who would make bad life choices to put him in a situation where someone would kill him.
Investigators leave the body for the medical examiner to assess, and they conduct a more thorough search of the car.
In the trunk of the car, I found a credit card with the name of Thomas Burchard on it. We ran that name, and it came up as a missing person. The report gave a description, white male adult in his 70s, and it matched very closely the person that we had in the trunk.
However, when police run the car's plates, they discover it does not belong to Thomas Burchard.
The name that was associated with the registered owner from San Francisco was an Asian name, and his build was much smaller. The San Francisco Police Department attempted to go and make contact, but the registered owner was out of the country at the time.
While questions surrounding the vehicle multiply, detectives try to get to the bottom of who Thomas Burchard is.
I was able to conduct a records check and learned that Thomas Burchard had been recently reported missing by Judy Earp. So I instructed some fellow homicide detectives to reach out to her and have casual conversations with her without giving away that this might have become a homicide investigation.
Judy said that he missed the flight, so Judy filed the missing persons report. So her concern was something must have happened to him because he would always come home.
Thomas Burchard was a man who always seemed destined to make a difference in the world.
He was born in Boston in 1948. His father taught at Harvard, and his mother was a librarian, so he was surrounded with academia. He went to medical school at UVA, University of Virginia in Charlottesville, for child psychiatry. And after that, he did several, residencies at Mass General, Cincinnati Children's Hospital, UCLA. He loved children. And for the longest time, Tom was the only child psychiatrist in Monterey County.
Some people called him Santa because of his large white beard. And like Santa, Thomas was extremely generous.
His former patients talk about what an incredible human being he was and how he assisted them through some very difficult times in their lives.
Over the years, I believe Tom has helped hundreds of people.
Due to his generous nature, Thomas developed close relationships with all of his patients. But by the time he was in his early 50s, he still didn't have a family to call his own. That changed in 2002 when he met Judy Earp, a single mother whose own marriage had recently ended.
We met here in Las Vegas with a group. While everybody else was out gambling, we were just kind of left to ourselves, and we talked and chatted, went to shows, and just hit it off. For about a year, we dated. It was kind of long distance. And eventually we moved in together. My 3 youngest children, he was, the father figure in their life.
Eventually, they got engaged. And over the course of the next 17 years, Thomas and Judy built a life together in Salinas, California. But they often returned to the city where they first met.
We would come to Las Vegas every year for medical conferences.
In 2019, at the age of 71, Thomas was still seeing patients, but his health forced him to start planning for retirement.
The last 18 months of his life, he started having problems. I highly suspect that he's in the early stages of Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. During this time, Tom went on a trip to Las Vegas. It was a very spur-of-the-moment thing, and he booked a flight on Friday and to return on Monday. He didn't come home on the airplane. Then I knew something terrible had happened. When I initially reported Tom missing, I told them maybe he's got lost or something.
Las Vegas police begin their investigation by contacting Thomas's partner, Judy. Judy says Thomas went to Vegas to visit a friend named Kelsey Turner.
He was well known in the community for helping. He had received a text from Kelsey Turner that she was very sick He went to her house to talk to her. The next day, I get a text from him, which is Saturday, and he says, I look forward to coming home. See you on Monday. Okay, but I don't hear from him.
Judy goes on to tell police that Thomas has been missing for almost a week.
She had requested what is known as a welfare check. The patrol officers go to Kelsey Turner's home. They knock, there is no answer. There's mail piled at the door. And as a detective, what it suggested to us is that the residence has now been suddenly vacated, and we cannot account for Kelsey Turner, living or dead. So it's imperative in this investigation that we find her to determine if she is in fact still alive, because somebody that she's closely connected to is deceased.
Coming up, detectives find a crucial piece of evidence.
There was a baseball bat, and on the baseball bat, written in marker, was a name.
We were able to determine it was her boyfriend.
And Thomas's partner believes she knows why he was killed.
She's trying to use whatever she can to keep his money coming.
Investigators have found what they believe is Dr. Thomas Burchard's body in the trunk of a car. And the following morning, they attend an autopsy to confirm.
Through fingerprints, they were able to confirm that, in fact, the body of the deceased was Thomas Burchard. The medical examiner decided that the cause of death was blunt force trauma.
Closer inspection of the Mercedes provides clues to how the murder occurred.
You could see defects in the headliner where you could tell something was being swung and it was hitting the ceiling of the car. In the trunk of the car was probably one of the most complete body disposal kits that I've stumbled across in my career. There was leather gloves, there was rags, there was garbage bags full of cleaning products.
There was potential DNA evidence, there were latent prints.
There was a baseball bat, and on the baseball bat, written in marker, was a name, Greg Haggio.
Now that they have more information and Thomas is officially identified, detectives call Judy to break the news.
I received a phone call. It was Detective Jaeger, and he told me that they'd found Tom. I asked him, well, can I talk to him? Is he okay? And he said no, he was deceased. And at that time, my world crashed in.
By virtue of her alibi, we were able to determine that Judy had nothing to do with the murder of Thomas Burchard.
Detective Jaeger told me that he'd been found in the trunk of a Mercedes.
After learning this detail from detectives, Judy reveals valuable insight.
Judy tells investigators that the Mercedes found in the middle of the desert belongs to Kelsey Turner.
I suspect that she's involved in this somehow. So I told him everything about Tom's whole history with Kelsey Turner.
Judy says Thomas met Turner 2 years ago. She was a 25-year-old single mother who was struggling financially.
He starts helping her out with her finances and helping her out with rent.
According to Judy, Turner quickly became a problem.
He did this for so many people, and a few of them took advantage, but nothing to the extent of this. It was always, oh, I need money for medicine for my son, or this or that. I initially had estimated just what I had known from rent and car and some of the credit card expenses at about $300,000. But when I actually delved into the records, I stopped counting at about $750,000. I told Tom, I said, you know, this is bad. You need to get out of this. He said, okay, I will tell her.
We wanted to move her out of state to kind of quell the waters a little bit, to keep everything, the friction down between Judy and her. So he rented a house in Las Vegas.
Judy says when she found out about the new arrangement, she convinced Thomas to cut Turner off for good. That was the purpose of his trip when he left for Vegas on March 1st.
The next day, I get a text from him. I have effectively resolved the situation here, and I'm looking forward to returning home on Monday.
But on Sunday, Judy got a strange message from him.
I received this text saying he wanted to send me money, and so I'm thinking, this is fishy. The language, the grammar was not his. I think she's stolen his phone and is trying to get my information. And so I texted back, I said, you need to call me. I don't believe this is you. And after that, the phone went dead.
Now, Judy is convinced Kelsey Turner had something to do with Thomas's death. Based on the circumstances of his visit, investigators are starting to share that suspicion. After Judy's interview, investigators get in touch with the registered owner of the Mercedes in San Francisco.
He explained that he turned over the lease of the vehicle to Kelsey Turner, and that transfer process was facilitated by Thomas Bouchard. And according to Miss Erb, Thomas had traveled last minute to Las Vegas for the sole purpose of cutting her off. So that's when the focus began to narrow on Kelsey Turner. Through local records checks, we found an incident that was about a month before the murder that involved Miss Turner and an individual by the name of Greg Haggio.
We're able to determine that Greg Haggio was a boyfriend of Kelsey Turner.
If he is the boyfriend at the time and this individual is coming to visit his girlfriend, you can see that we have the potential for even a love triangle that went terribly awry.
I had a arrest warrant ready to go. I'm like, dude, we found a bat with his name on it, with blood on it. Come on, this is a slam dunk.
We speak with Greg, and it appeared that Greg and Kelsey broke up.
Greg Haggio wasn't happy with the kind of life that Kelsey was leading with the partying, and so he left, and he left all of his belongings in Kelsey's house. We looked at historical phone locations on him. He was actually working as a deckhand on a fishing boat when the murder happened. So we were able to rule Greg Haggio out of the equation.
Since Kelsey Turner is the only connection left to track down, investigators obtain a search warrant for her home in Las Vegas.
Some uniformed patrol officers showed up and were able to make entry through an unlocked door. They determined that the house was unoccupied. We could establish very quickly that was our crime scene.
Police find bloodstains. They find blue and white towels that match the towels that were found inside the car in the desert. They find a door that was almost off of its hinges, completely broken. There's also a smell of cleaning products and some sort of attempt of a cleanup inside the home.
Despite all the evidence in the home pointing to foul play, investigators still can't find Kelsey Turner.
We would have fully expected her to have reached out to law enforcement because Thomas's role in her life is so important, but there's no effort no effort whatsoever for Kelsey Turner to make contact with law enforcement. None. It's not like she's involved or she's dead. It's more like she's likely involved and we have to find her.
The evidence in Kelsey Turner's home suggests Dr. Thomas Burchard might have been killed there. So detectives contact the landlord of the property to see if they know where she is.
When police talk to the landlord, they confirm that Thomas Burchard had been paying the rent there and that Kelsey Turner lived inside the home.
Police discover Kelsey had 2 roommates, a woman named Diana Pena and a man named John Kennison. Uncertain of their connection to Kelsey, investigators take a closer look at the roommates.
So once we determine everybody that's staying at the house, that's when we start investigating to get good phone numbers for them.
While waiting for cell information, investigators also put out a bolo alert for all 3. They then track down Turner's loved ones to learn more about her.
So as police are talking with acquaintances, friends, and family members of Kelsey Turner, they learn that Kelsey comes from Arkansas, had divorced parents, and kind of grew up with a little bit of a rough upbringing. People always said she did not seem like the type of woman who would stay in Arkansas. They knew she had big dreams. She wanted to be in front of a camera.
Turner married and had 2 children, but when the relationship ended, she took the children and moved to California to pursue her dreams.
Kelsey Turner was an aspiring model. She had a very involved social media platform that she was utilizing to move her modeling career forward.
She ends up on the covers of a couple of magazines, including Playboy Italia and Maxim, but a lot of her work is through Instagram. She has hundreds of thousands of followers. She goes by the nickname Bad Barbie and really kind of leans into that persona.
According to Kelsey's friends, she was doing more than just modeling.
I'm a celebrity DJ, and I first met Kelsey when she started coming out with other girls that were in our Hollywood kids circle. The places that she would be out with me at are literally the #1 nightclubs in all of Hollywood. Most of the girls that would come out with me were there to find, someone else that could help them get to another level. Kelsey seems like another needy LA girl, that's just trying to find someone to latch onto. That's just all it seemed to me.
And it seems Kelsey eventually found what she was looking for.
About a year after that Playboy appearance is when she starts reaching out to Dr. Thomas Burchard for help with finances.
Burchard was kind of her sugar daddy, paying for the residence, paying for the car, paying for car insurance.
I believe that Thomas Burchard and Kelsey Turner had some kind of a physical relationship, but a lot of people were able to keep that to themselves.
Even without confirmation on the exact nature of their relationship, it's clear to investigators Kelsey leaned on Thomas.
It appears that after Playboy Italia, she didn't really have any big publications or any great gigs in modeling. Thomas says, hey, I'll pay you to move to Las Vegas, thinking that it would be a better spot for her.
They determined that it might be best for her to relocate to Las Vegas to help advance her modeling career in this city.
Kelsey's daughter stayed in California with family, and her son joined her in Vegas. Friends confirm she was sharing the house Burchard provided with her friend Diana Pena and new boyfriend, John Kennison.
When we looked into the background of John Logan Kennison, we discovered that he had recently completed a prison term here in Nevada for drug-related offenses. Now we have other names of people that are intimately connected to the home. We need to be able to get a hook into them and have an opportunity to interview them and figure out what's going on.
In March 2019, the search for Thomas Burchard's killer continues as detectives subpoena the data of Kelsey Turner and her roommates, hoping to build a timeline.
Thomas arrived in Las Vegas on March 1st during the evening hours. His body's found the 7th. And it's apparent by March 4th, something happened when he didn't return home to California. So the 1st through the 4th are very, very important dates as it relates to devices being at or near the Puritan address.
We have Diana Pena, Kelsey Turner, and then John Kennison. We know are all living in the house. We get good phone numbers for them. We do a location history on those phone numbers. Everybody was at the house late night hours of March 3rd into early morning hours of March 4th. And then Diana Pena, John Kennison, Kelsey Turner, they all leave the house.
Based on the phone records, their phones all appeared to be shut off around the same time and ended in the area of the Rio Hotel.
Detectives contact the Rio Hotel, hoping the three might be there.
We find out that Diana Pena had rented a room at the Rio, and they just abruptly left all of their items. Upon learning that information, we generated a search warrant to go into the storage room at the Rio to search for what items that were left.
They found personal items of Diana Pena, some prescription drugs, and a black notebook belonging to Thomas Burchard. They also found the ID of Kelsey Turner.
Inside what appears to be Thomas's notebook, they find his account of how desperate Kelsey had been to maintain his financial support.
She was threatening him, accusing him of child pornography. Totally unfounded and absolutely untrue. But if you can imagine a man that his whole life has been a children's psychiatrist, how devastating just those accusations would be.
I had submitted Thomas Burchard's phone to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Internet Crimes Against Children. They found no evidence of child pornography on the device. So Kelsey Turner's allegation was completely unfounded. But if that information were to be released to the public, it would be incredibly damaging to Thomas's reputation.
Being attractive and providing companionship to Burchard is paying for her house, it's paying for her car, and she doesn't want to get off the gravy train. She's trying to use whatever she can to keep his money coming.
Because police were able to find that connection of the car to Kelsey Turner, the home with bloodstains inside, and the towels matching the home and the car, and a black notebook from Thomas Burchard inside that hotel room. That gives them the green light for an arrest warrant.
The search for Miss Turner was turned over to a criminal apprehension team. It took them about a week, but they were able to identify her living out in California at a residence that belonged to one of Kelsey's friends. When she was apprehended, She was in the company of John Logan Kennison. We did not have a warrant for Kennison at that particular time, so they had to let him go.
Turner refuses to speak with investigators. But on April 4th, they receive new evidence that implicates both of her roommates in the murder as well.
The fingerprints that were gathered from the vehicle had been analyzed and came back belonging to Diana Pena and John Kennison.
With that, we established probable cause to get an arrest warrant for Diana and Kennison.
Both of them were charged with murder with use of a deadly weapon.
But a week later, Diana turns herself in, and in hopes of a deal, she agrees to tell her story from the beginning.
I met Kelsey from a friend of a friend, and then she asked me to move in not too long after that. I think she was very new to Vegas, so Dr. Burchard financed quite a bit of her expenses. She told me that he was like her sugar daddy. She would call him, message him, send him videos, and he would send her money. He was just a meal ticket. She called him her whale.
Coming up, Diana's interview provides shocking insight.
There were messages about taking her son away from her.
And possible motives are revealed.
He told me they were going to kill him, and that he hopes that they don't kill me too.
On April 13th, 2019, detectives sit down with Diana Pena, who says when Dr. Thomas Burchard showed up in Vegas on March 1st, Kelsey Turner knew he was there to end their arrangement.
Kelsey had told me probably about a month before he had come out that he was talking about cutting her off, but he was having a hard time actually doing it. She kind of had control over him. And Dr. Burchard said that Kelsey needed a lot of help. He said that he loved Kelsey, but she needs to get her life together, stuff like that.
According to Pena, it led to heated arguments between the two, which she experienced firsthand the day after Thomas arrived.
The next morning, I went to work. Kelsey messaged me and she's like, "Can you please come home early? I'm upset." And she said she would come pick me up. I got in the car, I was in the back seat. Kelsey was in the front seat. Dr. Burchard was driving. So Kelsey took Dr. Burchard's phone and was trying to do the GPS. And while she was on his phone, she kind of looked through his messages and seen messages between him and her mother about taking her son away from her.
Pena says the discovery caused Turner to snap.
She was kicking him, hitting him, screaming at him. Eventually, we did make it back to the house. Dr. Burchard went up to the room that he was staying in and just shut the door.
Fearing the situation might escalate, Pena asked a friend to take Kelsey's child, who was at the home, to a hotel. Hours later, her intuition proved correct.
After he went upstairs, Kelsey would randomly go up there and start screaming at him. And then Kennison would go up there and start screaming at him. And then I would tell them to go downstairs and calm down. Eventually, she yelled at Kennison to knock Dr. Burchard out. And Kennison ran upstairs, broke down the door. I'm not sure where the bat came from, but I knew he had a bat. You could hear it. At that point, I ran upstairs into the room, and I just kind of tried to get Kennison to get off of Burchard. I told Dr. Bouchard to stay on the floor because his left eye was like filled with blood. He said he needed to go to the hospital and offered to say that he had been mugged. I helped him downstairs, kind of helped him clean up.
Pena says early the next morning, Turner and Kennison eventually agreed to take Thomas to the emergency room.
I helped him into the backseat of Kelsey's car. Dr. Bouchard said he wanted his coat. So Kelsey and Kennison went back into the house. That's when he told me they were going to kill him and that he hopes that they don't kill me too. I just told him that's not going to happen. They're taking you to the hospital. Why would they kill you? And then Kelsey came back into the garage and she told me to go into the house and clean. So I went back into the house and I was cleaning. I started hearing Kelsey screaming again. She was calling Kennison a bitch and to knock Dr. Bouchard out. So I came running down the stairs and told her to stop.
But Pena says she was too late.
Kennison had a gun that was covered in blood. Kelsey told me that that was what he used to beat the doctor's face. I was like, is everything okay? And she's like, he's dead. I was pretty scared and just not sure what to do.
Terrified that Thomas was right and she might be next, Pena went with Turner and Kennison to a hotel to hide out.
Kennison left with the car with the body in there to drive her car somewhere and do something with it. We sat in the hotel room for days. Kelsey was constantly Googling, turning on the news, and she had seen on the news that the car had been discovered. They just knew that, you know, it's Kelsey's car, it's her sugar daddy in the trunk. Like, Kelsey was freaking out, knowing it's very easy to connect those dots.
Diana Pena says the plan was for all of them to flee the state, but she decided to turn herself in.
After the interview, she was booked into Clark County Detention Center on her warrant.
When they put me in a jail cell, that's probably when I felt the most safe. Because who's gonna break into a jail to hurt somebody?
She confirmed a lot of things that we already knew and opened our eyes on a lot of other things.
I assumed I would have to testify at some point. I was there. So it was the right thing to do.
It's been a month since Dr. Thomas Bouchard was found murdered. And Las Vegas police have 2 of their 3 suspects in custody.
Kelsey Turner has acquired legal representation. Diana Pena went to police to help them piece together exactly what happened. But the other man who's involved here, John Kennison, is still out on the loose.
We established through fingerprints on the bat probable cause for Kennison. So based on that, we had an arrest warrant. The CATS team was looking for him using his phone.
They determined that John, in fact, returned from California to Las Vegas, went back to his mom's house, and that's where the authorities were able to locate and apprehend him.
Like Turner, Kennison refuses to talk. But Pena agrees to plead guilty to being an accessory and testify against the other 2.
I was sentenced to 3 years of probation and a felony accessory.
I don't harbor any ill feelings towards her. I wish she had called 911, but I do understand that she was very frightened and probably in shock. And I believe Kelsey Turner probably was using her just like she used everybody.
In May 2022, 3 years after Dr. Thomas Burchard's murder, Kennison decides to plead guilty as well.
Logan is accepting full responsibility for his actions. He knows that he committed a terrible crime, and he is remorseful for that.
The total sentence, the aggregate sentence, will be 18 to 45 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections.
Later that year, Kelsey Turner makes a deal of her own.
Do you understand you're being charged with second-degree murder?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to that charge? Guilty pursuant to Alford or not guilty?
Guilty pursuant to Alford.
To explain an Alford plea, you're not confessing to it. You're just acknowledging that the state has enough evidence to convict you of it.
Ms. Turner, in accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, you're hereby judged guilty of second-degree murder, a felony. You're hereby sentenced to 10 to 25 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections.
In the initial court hearings, she's smiling and laughing and posing for the cameras. Even if she was not guilty, somebody that you knew was murdered. That's just evil, just evil.
I never realized such evil existed in this world until this happened. Physically, it has been very difficult for me. The emotional turmoil I have experienced was and is literally gut-wrenching.
No matter what Dr. Burchard's motivations were for trying to help a single mom in need, it's just terrible that someone who had helped so many people in his life and seemed to only try to help people in his life ended up paying the ultimate price for it.
I think Kelsey Turner is a danger to society. Honestly, I don't think she should ever get out of prison.
The vast and quiet expanse of the Las Vegas desert has long served as a silent witness to the complex and often dark human dramas that spill over from the bright neon lights of the nearby Strip. On the 7th of March in the year 2019, this arid landscape became the starting point for a complex homicide investigation that would eventually expose a tragic story of manipulation, financial exploitation, and the ultimate betrayal of a deeply generous man. The discovery began in a highly ordinary manner when a citizen out driving a new pickup truck noticed a blue 2017 Mercedes-Benz 2-door coupe parked in a remote desert area where no passenger car had any logical reason to be. Suspecting that the luxury vehicle might have been stolen and abandoned, the motorist contacted local law enforcement. When patrol officers arrived at the remote location, they found the car exactly as described, though the initial caller had already departed. The vehicle appeared neglected, with a broken window, suggesting that it had been left to the elements. As the officers began a routine inventory of the vehicle, prior to having it towed, they opened the doors and immediately encountered a scene that shifted the nature of their response from a simple property recovery to a serious criminal investigation. Inside the cabin of the luxury sedan, officers discovered a significant amount of blood spatter evidence. The biological traces were located primarily in the back seat, behind the driver's seat, and on the headliner, indicating that a violent physical struggle had occurred within the confines of the vehicle. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, the officers immediately requested assistance from homicide detectives and crime scene analysts. A closer inspection of the vehicle led the team to the trunk. Upon opening it, they discovered a large bundle of bedding and clothing. When the investigators carefully parted the sheets and blankets, they made the grim discovery of a human arm. The presence of a deceased individual inside the trunk confirmed their worst suspicions. To preserve the integrity of the physical evidence and maintain a controlled environment for the recovery process, the investigators decided to tow the entire vehicle, with the body still inside, to the crime scene investigation laboratory garage. It was within this controlled environment that the forensic team carefully removed the deceased. The initial physical appearance of the victim presented a striking contrast to the typical circumstances of a desert homicide. The deceased was an elderly gentleman, dressed in a sweater vest and a bow tie, looking very much like a gentle grandfather who had lived a quiet, respectable life. The detectives immediately noted that this individual did not fit the profile of someone who made reckless life choices or associated vekep, tehat, dangerous criminal elements. As the forensic team searched the trunk for identification, they discovered a credit card bearing the name of Dr. Thomas Burchard. A subsequent database search revealed that a missing person report had recently been filed for Dr. Burchard by his long-term partner, Judy Earp, in Salinas, California. The physical description in the missing person report, which detailed a white male adult in his early 70s with a prominent white beard, closely matched the individual found in the vehicle. However, when investigators ran the registration of the Mercedes-Benz, they discovered that the vehicle did not belong to Dr. Burchard. The registered owner was an individual residing in San Francisco, who was later determined to be out of the country and had lease agreements associated with another party. To understand how a highly respected child psychiatrist from California ended up in the trunk of a luxury vehicle in the Nevada desert, investigators began to piece together the remarkable life and career of Dr. Thomas Burchard. Born in Boston in the year 1948, Dr. Burchard grew up in a family deeply rooted in academic excellence. His father was a professor at Harvard University, and his mother worked as a librarian, fostering an environment where education and intellectual pursuits were highly valued. Dr. Burchard chose a path in medicine, attending the University of Virginia for his medical degree before completing prestigious residencies at Massachusetts General Hospital, Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, and the University of California at Los Angeles. He dedicated his career to the field of child psychiatry, eventually settling in Monterey County, California, where for a long period he was the only practicing specialist in his field. Over his decades of service, he helped hundreds of children and families navigate complex psychological challenges. His patients and colleagues remembered him as an exceptionally gentle, generous, and compassionate man, with some affectionately referring to him as Santa Claus, due to his warm demeanor and distinctive white beard. Dr. Burchard's generous nature extended far beyond his clinical practice. He was known to frequently assist individuals in financial distress, often providing monetary support to those he believed were struggling. While this altruism brought comfort to many, it also left him highly vulnerable to exploitation. In the year 2002, Dr. Burchard met Judy Earp, a single mother, in Las Vegas. The two formed a deep bond, eventually becoming engaged and sharing a life together in Salinas, California, for 17 years. However, as Dr. Burchard entered his early 70s, his health began to decline. with his partner observing early signs of cognitive impairment or dementia. It was during this period of increasing vulnerability that Dr. Burchard became involved in a highly toxic, parasitic relationship with a young aspiring model named Kelsey Turner. Kelsey Turner was a 25-year-old single mother who had moved from Arkansas to California to pursue a career in modeling. She had achieved some moderate success, appearing on the covers of adult lifestyle magazines such as Playboy Italia and Maxim, and had built a substantial following on social media under a persona that highlighted a high-spending, glamorous lifestyle. However, behind the digital facade lay significant financial instability. According to Judy Earp, Dr. Burchard met Kelsey Turner and began providing her with immense financial assistance, ostensibly to help her care for her young child. This support quickly escalated from occasional help with rent to covering her entire lifestyle, including lease payments on a luxury vehicle and expensive rentals. Over the course of their association, Judy Earp estimated that Dr. Burchard had provided Kelsey Turner with over $300,000, and a subsequent review of financial records revealed that the total sum actually exceeded $750,000. The dynamics of this relationship represent a classic example of financial exploitation, a phenomenon that occurs with tragic frequency when vulnerable, wealthy individuals are targeted by skilled manipulators. In jhene cases, the perpetrator often utilizes emotional manipulation, playing on the victim's natural desire to help or their need for companionship. For Dr. Burchard, his lifelong dedication to helping children may have made him particularly susceptible to Kelsey Turner's pleas for financial help under the guise of supporting her young son. When Judy Earp discovered the massive scale of the financial drain, she pleaded with Dr. Burchard to end the arrangement. Recognizing the strain the situation was causing in his personal life, Dr. Burchard attempted to de-escalate the conflict by paying to relocate Kelsey Turner to Las Vegas, hoping that distance would naturally reduce her dependence on him. However, the relocation only shifted the geographical center of the exploitation. In early March of the year 2019, Dr. Burchard made a sudden decision to travel to Las Vegas. According to his partner, his primary objective was to visit Kelsey Turner at her rental home and formally inform her that he was terminating all financial support. He boarded a flight on the 1st of March with plans to return on the 4th of March. This trip would prove to be his final act of generosity and his most fatal mistake. When Dr. Burchard failed to return home on his scheduled flight, Judy Earp immediately contacted law enforcement to file a missing person report, sensing that something terrible had occurred. Her fears were validated when local patrol officers performed a welfare check at Kelsey Turner's Las Vegas residence and found the property completely abandoned, with mail piling up at the door. The investigation into the homicide of Dr. Burchard quickly focused on the physical evidence found within the Mercedes-Benz and the abandoned rental home on Warm Springs Road. In the trunk of the vehicle, alongside the body, crime scene analysts discovered what they described as a highly complete disposal kit. This kit contained leather gloves, cleaning products, trash bags, and rags, indicating a deliberate, albeit highly flawed, attempt to conceal the crime. Among these items, investigators made a crucial discovery: a baseball bat with the name Greg Haggio written on it in marker. This detail initially led detectives to suspect Kelsey Turner's former boyfriend, Greg Haggio, suggesting a potential love triangle that had turned violent. However, when investigators located and interviewed Greg Haggio, They found that he had a flawless alibi. At the time of the murder, he was working as a deckhand on a commercial fishing boat miles away. Furthermore, he explained that he had recently broken up with Kelsey Turner due to her chaotic lifestyle and had left many of his personal belongings, including the baseball bat, at her residence. This established that the murder weapon had been sourced directly from inside the home. The sophistication of the criminals in this case presents a stark irony. While they made efforts to clean the crime scene and dispose of the body in a remote location, their actions were characterized by immense carelessness and a complete lack of foresight, leaving a labeled weapon in the trunk with the victim, abandoning a vehicle registered to the suspect's lease agreement, and leaving behind easily identifiable personal items are classic indicators of a panicked, uncoordinated response to a violent event. The investigators quickly secured a search warrant for the Warm Springs Road residence, where they found undeniable proof of a violent struggle. Despite attempts to clean the property with chemical disinfectants, forensic analysts detected significant bloodstains, a door that had been broken off its hinges, and blue and white bath towels that perfectly matched the towels found wrapping the body in the desert. To locate the suspects, who had clearly fled the scene, detectives relied heavily on modern digital forensics. By subpoenaing the cellular phone records of Kelsey Turner and her two roommates, Diana Pena and John Logan Kennison, investigators were able to construct a highly precise timeline of their movements. The data revealed that all three individuals were present at the residence during the late hours of the 3rd of March and the early morning hours of the 4th of March. Subsequently, their cellular devices were turned off simultaneously, and their location histories placed them at a local hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. When detectives executed a search warrant at the hotel room, which had been abruptly vacated, they recovered personal items, identification documents belonging to Kelsey Turner, and a black notebook that had belonged to Dr. Burchard. Inside the notebook, Dr. Burchard had detailed the increasing desperation of Kelsey Turner, including highly damaging and completely unfounded accusations she had made against him in an attempt to coerce him into continuing his financial support. Forensic analysis later proved these accusations to be entirely false, revealing them as a calculated extortion tactic to maintain her access to his wealth. With sufficient physical and digital evidence to establish probable cause, arrest warrants were issued for the three suspects. Kelsey Turner was located and apprehended by federal agents and local police in Stockton, California, where she was staying vikep ite hat a friend. At the time of her arrest, she was accompanied by her boyfriend, John Logan Kennison, though he was initially released because a warrant had not yet been finalized for him. Shortly thereafter, Diana Pena surrendered to the authorities. Facing severe charges of murder with the use of a deadly weapon, Diana Pena chose to cooperate with the prosecution in exchange for a plea agreement, providing investigators with a detailed, first-hand account of the events that transpired within the home. According to Diana Pena's testimony, Dr. Burchard's arrival on the 1st of March immediately created a tense atmosphere, as Kelsey Turner was well aware that he intended to cut off her financial lifeline. The situation escalated dramatically on the morning of the 2nd of March, when Kelsey Turner took Dr. Burchard's phone to assist with navigation while driving. While examining the device, she discovered text messages between the doctor and her mother, discussing the possibility of obtaining custody of her young son due to her unstable lifestyle. This discovery caused Kelsey Turner to experience a violent outburst, during which she began physically attacking the elderly physician inside the vehicle. After returning to the residence, Dr. Burchard retreated to an upstairs room to seek safety. However, the harassment continued, with both Kelsey Turner and John Logan Kennison repeatedly entering the room to verbally abuse him. The violence reached a tragic climax when Kelsey Turner demanded that John Logan Kennison physically assault Dr. Burchard. John Logan Kennison broke down the bedroom door and used a baseball bat to beat the elderly doctor, inflicting severe head injuries. Diana Penna, hearing the violence, attempted to intervene and clean Dr. Burchard's wounds, advising him to remain on the floor. In a poignant demonstration of his gentle character, the injured doctor expressed a desire to avoid trouble, offering to tell hospital staff that he had been the victim of a random street robbery. Early the following morning, under the pretense of taking him to an emergency room, Kelsey Turner and John Logan Kennison assisted the weakened doctor into the back seat of the Mercedes-Benz. However, instead of driving to a medical facility, the situation degenerated further in the garage. Diana Pena testified that Kelsey Turner continued to scream at John Logan Kennison, urging him to silence the doctor permanently. John Logan Kennison then utilized a firearm to inflict further fatal blunt force injuries upon the victim. Following the murder, the three individuals panicked, realizing the immediate connection between the victim, the vehicle, and the residence. John Logan Kennison drove the vehicle containing the body into the desert, abandoning it near East Lake Mead, while the group fled to a hotel to hide before attempting to leave the state. Diana Pena's decision to cooperate with the authorities proved to be a decisive factor in securing justice. Her detailed account provided the necessary context to tie the physical evidence directly to the individual actions of the co-conspirators. In the summer of the year 2022, John Logan Kennison pleaded guilty to charges of second-degree murder and conspiracy, receiving a prison sentence of 18 to 45 years. Later that year, facing the overwhelming weight of the state's evidence, Kelsey Turner entered an Alford plea to second-degree murder, acknowledging that the prosecution possessed sufficient evidence to secure a conviction. She was subsequently sentenced to 10 to 25 years in prison. Diana Pena pleaded guilty to a charge of accessory to murder and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. This tragic case offers profound life lessons regarding the importance of recognizing the warning signs of psychological and financial manipulation. Parasitic relationships often develop gradually, with the perpetrator establishing a dependency that becomes increasingly difficult for the victim to break. For families and communities, it is vital to maintain close communication with elderly relatives, particularly those who may be experiencing cognitive decline or who possess a highly generous, trusting nature. Setting firm boundaries and involving legal or financial advisors when large sums of money are involved can help shield vulnerable individuals from predatory behaviors. Additionally, the rapid resolution of this case highlights the critical importance of modern forensic techniques and cooperative law enforcement strategies. The integration of digital location tracking, rapid DNA profiling, and strategic community outreach allowed the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to quickly narrow their focus, locate the suspects across state lines, and secure the testimonies necessary to achieve justice. Through the diligent efforts of the investigating forces, the tragic passing of Dr. Thomas Burchard was met with a swift and decisive legal resolution, ensuring that his lifelong legacy of compassion and healing remains untarnished by the actions of those who sought to exploit his kindness. The glittering oasis of Las Vegas, Nevada, has long been celebrated as a destination where individuals travel to escape the mundane realities of daily life, to indulge in entertainment, and to experience a world of high stakes and bright lights. Yet, beyond the neon-soaked boulevards and the architectural marvels of the famous Strip lies a vast, silent desert. This surrounding wilderness, characterized by its arid terrain and quiet vastness, has occasionally become the backdrop for mysteries that contrast sharply with the vibrant energy of the city. On the 7th of March in the year 2019, the stark boundary between the celebration of the city and the silence of the desert became the starting point for a complex investigation that would captivate the public and challenge experienced homicide detectives. The sequence of events began when an ordinary citizen was enjoying an afternoon of outdoor recreation, driving a newly acquired pickup truck through the eastern reaches of Clark County, far from the paved highways. In an area where only rugged off-road vehicles are typically found, the driver noticed an unusual sight. Resting in the dirt was a sleek, low-slung Mercedes-Benz two-door coupe. It was immediately apparent that this vehicle was entirely out of its element, as a luxury sedan of its design was never intended to navigate such rough and isolated terrain. Suspecting that the vehicle might have been stolen and abandoned by joyriders, the citizen contacted local law enforcement to report the discovery. When patrol officers from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department arrived at the coordinates, the original caller had already departed, but the vehicle remained exactly as described. Standard protocol dictated that the officers conduct a routine inventory of the vehicle before arranging for a tow truck to retrieve it from the wilderness. However, the moment the officers opened the doors of the coupe, the nature of their task shifted dramatically. The interior of the car contained disturbing physical evidence that pointed toward a violent confrontation. There was extensive blood spatter distributed throughout the cabin, concentrated primarily behind the driver's seat, across the rear passenger area, and onto the fabric of the headliner. Realizing they were looking at a potential crime scene rather than a simple case of auto theft, the officers immediately halted their inventory, secured the perimeter, and requested assistance from the homicide section. Upon opening the trunk of the vehicle, investigators discovered a large quantity of household bedding. As they carefully parted the blankets and sheets, they made a grim discovery, revealing the unmistakable presence of a deceased human being. The call was routed to the Homicide Division, bringing Detective Ryan Jaeger and his partner to the desolate location. Recognizing the challenges of conducting a delicate forensic examination in the windy and dusty desert environment, the detectives decided to document the vehicle thoroughly in its found position before towing the entire car, with the deceased still inside, back to the secure and controlled environment of the forensic laboratory. Once inside the police garage, under optimal lighting and free from environmental contamination, the forensic team began the careful process of recovering the body. The appearance of the deceased was immediately striking to the investigators. He did not bear the markers of someone involved in a high-risk lifestyle or illicit activities. Instead, the elderly gentleman was dressed in a conservative sweater vest and a bow tie, looking very much like a beloved grandfather or a retired academic. This visual impression suggested that the victim was someone who had lived a structured, respectable life, making the violent circumstances of his demise all the more baffling to the officers. As the forensic examination of the vehicle continued, investigators searched the trunk for any personal effects that might offer a clue to the identity of the deceased. Among the items, they discovered a credit card bearing the name of Thomas Burchard. A search of law enforcement databases quickly revealed that an active missing person report had been filed for a man of that exact name in California. The physical description provided in the report, a white male in his early 70s, matched the individual found in the trunk. Yet, when detectives ran the registration of the Mercedes-Benz, they encountered an immediate discrepancy. The registered owner was an individual residing in San Francisco with an Asian surname, whose physical build was significantly smaller than that of the victim. Although the San Francisco Police Department attempted to contact this registered owner, they learned that he was currently out of the country, leaving the ownership of the vehicle as an unresolved puzzle. To understand how Thomas Burchard ended up in the trunk of a luxury car in the Nevada desert, investigators focused on the missing person report. The report had been initiated by Judy Earp, a resident of Salinas, California, who had been the domestic partner and fiancé of the missing man for nearly 2 decades. In an effort to gather information without prematurely revealing the tragic outcome of their search, homicide detectives contacted Judy Earp under the guise of a routine follow-up on her missing person report. Judy explained that Thomas had scheduled a brief, spontaneous trip to Las Vegas, departing on a Friday with the promise of returning on the following Monday. When he failed to board his return flight, her concern grew immediately, as such behavior was entirely uncharacteristic of him. He was a man of deep professional responsibility and personal consistency who maintained regular contact with his loved ones. As the conversation progressed, the detectives began to construct a biography of the victim. Thomas Burchard was born in the year 1948 in Boston, raised in a household that valued academic achievement and intellectual curiosity. His father was a professor at Harvard University, and his mother was a professional librarian, providing an environment that fostered his intellectual development. Thomas pursued a career in medicine, earning his degree from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, specializing in child psychiatry. After completing prestigious residencies at Massachusetts General Hospital, Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and the University of California in Los Angeles, he settled in Monterey County, California. For many years, he was the only child psychiatrist practicing in the region, dedicating his life to helping young patients navigate complex mental health struggles. Known affectionately by some as Santa Claus, due to his friendly demeanor and full white beard, Dr. Burchard was celebrated for his immense generosity, often going far beyond his professional duties to assist families in need. Despite his rich professional life, Dr. Burchard had not established a traditional family of his own until he met Judy Earp in the year 2002. The couple met in Las Vegas during a medical conference, finding mutual companionship while others were occupied with the attractions of the city. Over the course of the next 17 years, they built a shared life in Salinas, where Dr. Burchard acted as a devoted father figure to Judy's 3 youngest children. Even as he reached his early 70s, he continued to care for his patients, though his physical and cognitive health had begun to decline. Judy suspected that he was experiencing the early stages of a progressive cognitive impairment, such as dementia or Alzheimer's disease, which made him increasingly vulnerable to external influences. The investigation took a significant turn when Judy Earp revealed the purpose of Dr. Burchard's sudden trip to Las Vegas. According to Judy, the doctor had traveled to Nevada to visit a young woman named Kelsey Turner. Judy explained that Dr. Burchard had a history of helping individuals who were struggling financially, but that his relationship with Kelsey Turner had become exceptionally problematic. The young woman, an aspiring model who had appeared in publications such as Playboy Italia and Maxim under the social media moniker Bad Barbie, had allegedly exerted an extraordinary degree of influence over the elderly psychiatrist. Over a period of 2 years, she had repeatedly appealed to his generosity, requesting funds for rent, automobile payments, medical expenses for her young child, and lifestyle upkeep. Judy Earp had monitored these transactions with growing alarm. When she initially estimated the financial support Dr. Burchard had provided to Kelsey Turner, she believed the figure was around $300,000. However, upon reviewing detailed financial records, she discovered that the actual amount exceeded $750,000. Realizing that the relationship was financially draining and emotionally manipulative, Judy urged Dr. Burchard to sever ties with the young woman. In an effort to distance Kelsey from their local community, the doctor had previously agreed to fund her relocation to Las Vegas, renting a residence for her and her young children. However, the financial demands persisted, leading to a final decision. Dr. Burchard traveled to Las Vegas on the 1st of March with the explicit intention of informing Kelsey Turner that all financial assistance would cease permanently. The timeline of Dr. Burchard's visit was reconstructed through text messages and cellular data. On the 2nd of March, Judy received a message from the doctor indicating that he had resolved the situation and was looking forward to returning home. However, on the following Sunday, she received a highly unusual text message from his phone, requesting that she transfer a sum of money. The language, grammar, and tone of the message were entirely inconsistent with the doctor's typical writing style, leading Judy to suspect that someone had taken possession of his telephone. When she insisted on a voice call to verify his identity, the device was powered down and all communication ceased. Armed with this information, Las Vegas detectives requested a welfare check at the residence rented by Dr. Burchard for Kelsey Turner. When patrol officers arrived at the home, they found no sign of occupancy. Mail had begun to accumulate at the front door, and the interior appeared to have been abruptly vacated. The sudden disappearance of Kelsey Turner, coupled with the discovery of Dr. Burchard's body in a car registered to her, elevated her to the primary focus of the homicide investigation. To establish the exact cause of death, investigators attended the autopsy conducted by the medical examiner. Through fingerprint comparison, the identity of the deceased was formally confirmed as Dr. Thomas Burchard. The medical examiner concluded that the cause of death was blunt force trauma, resulting from multiple impacts to the head. Back at the forensic garage, an inspection of the Mercedes-Benz yielded further insights. Small indentations and defects in the headliner of the vehicle suggested that an object had been swung with great force inside the passenger cabin. Furthermore, the trunk contained what investigators described as a complete cleaning and disposal kit, including leather gloves, cleaning solutions, garbage bags, and rags. Most significantly, forensic technicians recovered a wooden baseball bat from the vehicle, which had the name Greg Haggio written upon it in permanent marker. The discovery of the name on the baseball bat initially pointed toward a new suspect. A record search revealed that Greg Haggio was indeed a real person who had been involved in a domestic relationship with Kelsey Turner. The detectives quickly located and interviewed him. Learning that the couple had recently dissolved their relationship due to disagreements over Kelsey's lifestyle. When the relationship ended, Greg had departed the residence, leaving many of his personal belongings behind, including the baseball bat. His alibi was robust and easily verified by historical cellular telephone location data and employment records, which proved he was working as a deckhand on a fishing vessel at the time of the homicide. Consequently, investigators ruled him out as a suspect, realizing that his abandoned baseball bat had simply been used by others. With Greg Haggio excluded, detectives secured a search warrant for the residence Kelsey Turner had occupied. Upon entering the home, investigators immediately recognized that they had found the primary crime scene. Despite an obvious attempt to clean the premises with chemical agents, forensic teams discovered extensive bloodstains in several areas of the house. A door in the upper level of the home was found nearly detached from its hinges, bearing signs of forced entry. Additionally, the household laundry area contained blue and white towels that matched the specific pattern and material of the towels found inside the Mercedes-Benz in the desert. The landlord of the property confirmed that Dr. Burchard had been paying the rent for the home, and that Kelsey Turner resided there alongside 2 roommates. These roommates were identified as Diana Pina, a local associate, and John Logan Kennison, a man with a prior criminal history involving drug-related offenses in the state of Nevada. Cellular telephone records for all 3 individuals were subpoenaed to trace their movements during the critical period between the 1st and the 4th of March. The data revealed that all 3 phones were present at the residence during the late hours of March 3rd and the early hours of March 4th. Shortly thereafter, the devices were simultaneously powered down or placed into a state that ceased location transmission, eventually registering near the Rio Hotel and Casino. Detectives contacted the management of the Rio Hotel and discovered that Diana Pena had checked into a room, which was subsequently abandoned in a hurried manner, leaving several personal belongings behind. A search warrant for the storage facility where the hotel placed these abandoned items yielded critical evidence. Investigators recovered personal effects belonging to Diana Pena, prescription medications, Kelsey Turner's identification card, and a black notebook that had belonged to Dr. Thomas Burchard. Within the pages of the notebook, the doctor had documented his interactions with Kelsey, including details of threats she had made against his professional reputation. She had reportedly threatened to accuse him of illicit behavior involving minors, a claim that was thoroughly investigated by specialized law enforcement units and found to be entirely baseless. For a respected child psychiatrist, however, even the threat of such an accusation carried devastating potential, illustrating the coercive tactics used to maintain the flow of financial support. With a substantial body of circumstantial and physical evidence connecting the 3 individuals to the crime, arrest warrants were issued. A specialized criminal apprehension team tracked Kelsey Turner to a residence in California, where she was arrested in the company of John Logan Kennison. At that time, sufficient evidence had not yet been finalized to detain Kennison, and he was temporarily released. Kelsey Turner refused to cooperate with investigators, remaining silent during her initial processing. The breakthrough in the case occurred when Diana Pena surrendered to authorities. Seeking a resolution that would take her cooperation into account, she agreed to provide a detailed, formal statement to the detectives. According to Deanna's account, Dr. Burchard had arrived at the residence to discuss the cessation of his financial support. While the doctor was present, Kelsey Turner accessed his mobile phone and discovered messages exchanged between the doctor and Kelsey's mother, which discussed potential arrangements regarding the custody of Kelsey's child. This discovery triggered an immediate and volatile reaction from Kelsey, who began physically assaulting the doctor. The situation escalated throughout the weekend. Diana described how Kelsey and John Logan Kennison repeatedly confronted Dr. Burchard in his upstairs room. At one point, Kelsey instructed Kennison to physically assault the doctor, prompting Kennison to break through the bedroom door with a baseball bat. Although Diana attempted to intervene and separate the men, the violence had already caused injuries to the doctor. Despite his injuries, Dr. Burchard offered to explain his wounds by claiming he had been the victim of an outdoor mugging, hoping to defuse the situation. The following morning, Kelsey and Kennison agreed to transport Dr. Burchard to a medical facility for treatment. He was assisted into the back seat of the Mercedes-Benz, but before they departed, Kelsey and Kennison returned to the house, leaving the doctor alone in the vehicle. According to Diana, the doctor expressed fear for his life during this brief interval. Shortly thereafter, Kelsey returned to the garage and instructed Diana to clean the interior of the home. Diana reported hearing further arguments outside, followed by the return of Kennison, who was in possession of a firearm that bore traces of physical contact. Kelsey then informed Diana that the doctor was deceased. Fearing for her own safety, Diana accompanied Kelsey and Kennison to the hotel where they attempted to hide. Kennison took the Mercedes-Benz to abandon it in the desert location where it was eventually discovered. Following her confession, Diana Penna entered a plea of guilty to a charge of accessory to a felony and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. Her testimony proved vital in securing the arrest of John Logan Kennison, who was located by authorities after returning to Las Vegas. In May of the year 2022, facing the strength of the state's evidence, John Logan Kennison entered a guilty plea and was sentenced to a term of 18 to 45 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections. Later that same year, Kelsey Turner opted to resolve her legal status by entering an Alford plea to a charge of second-degree murder. This legal maneuver allowed her to accept the conviction and the associated sentence of 10 to 25 years in prison without formally admitting to the physical act of the crime, acknowledging that the evidence against her would almost certainly result in a conviction at trial. This tragic case offers profound insights into the psychological dynamics of manipulation, the critical importance of establishing personal boundaries, and the meticulous nature of modern forensic science. The investigative team succeeded by systematically analyzing digital trails, verifying physical evidence such as matching towels and blood spatter, and using interpersonal interviews to reconstruct the timeline. For the community, the story of Dr. Thomas Burchard serves as a somber reminder of how generosity can be exploited when personal boundaries are eroded. It highlights the necessity of recognizing the warning signs of financial exploitation, particularly when elderly or vulnerable individuals are involved, and reinforces the enduring value of professional, objective, and relentless law enforcement in the pursuit of justice. Human generosity is one of the most noble traits of our species, representing empathy, compassion, and a genuine desire to assist those who are struggling. However, when this kindness is met with entitlement, manipulation, and an insatiable desire for unearned wealth, the results can be catastrophic. The tragic demise of Dr. Thomas Burchard is a profound study in the vulnerability of generous individuals and the dark paths that financial exploitation can take. To understand why etouche cases occur with alarming frequency in modern society, one must analyze the complex psychological dynamics between a benefactor and those who view assistance not as a temporary helping hand, but as a permanent, guaranteed source of income. The motives in these crimes almost always center on financial control, greed, and the panic that ensues when the financial well-being of the exploiters is threatened. Individuals who rely entirely on others for their luxury and sustenance often develop a dangerous sense of entitlement. When the benefactor attempts to establish healthy boundaries or cut off the financial supply, the recipient does not respond with gratitude for past assistance. Instead, they frequently experience a profound sense of anger, viewing the cessation of funds as a personal betrayal and an existential threat to their lifestyle. In this specific case, the motive was driven by the fear of losing an incredibly generous lifestyle that had been funded to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. The moment the benefactor took steps to finalize the end of this financial dependency, the situations escalated into violence, showing how quickly parasitism can turn into hostility when the source of funds attempts to reclaim their independence. These cases occur frequently because society has seen a rise in the commodification of relationships, often accelerated by social media and the illusion of overnight wealth. The desire for a lavish lifestyle without the corresponding hard work creates a highly volatile psychological environment. Vulnerable individuals, particularly older adults who may be experiencing cognitive decline or loneliness, are targeted by manipulative actors who recognize their soft hearts and willingness to help. The perpetrators often utilize guilt, fabricated emergencies, and emotional manipulation to extract resources, creating a cycle of dependence that becomes increasingly difficult for the benefactor to break. When family members or partners step in to advise the benefactor to end the relationship, the exploiters realize their hold is slipping, which frequently triggers desperate and violent acts to secure whatever resources they can before the relationship ends entirely. When analyzing the investigation that followed the discovery of Dr. Thomas Burchard on March 7, 2019, it becomes clear that the police relied on a combination of classic detective work and modern digital forensics to piece together the truth. The investigation began in the desolate desert of eastern Clark County, Nevada, where a citizen driving a pickup truck noticed an abandoned Mercedes-Benz coupe parked where no two-wheel drive vehicle belonged. Upon arriving, patrol officers discovered a scene that immediately indicated foul play. Inside the vehicle, significant blood spatter was located on the headliner, behind the driver's seat, and in the back seat, suggesting a violent struggle had taken place inside the tight confines of the car. The discovery of a body in the trunk, wrapped in bedding and household items, transformed the vehicle recovery into a homicide investigation. The most critical initial clue found inside the vehicle was a credit card bearing the name of Thomas Burchard. A records check revealed that he had recently been reported missing by his partner, Judy Earp, in California. While the victim was identified, the registered owner of the vehicle was located in San Francisco, California. This discrepancy led investigators to contact the registered owner, who explained that he had transferred the lease of the vehicle to a young woman named Kelsey Turner. a transaction that had been financially facilitated by Dr. Burchard himself. This established the vital link between the victim, the abandoned car, and the prime suspect. The sophistication of the criminals in this case was, ironically, almost non-existent, showcasing a series of incredibly clumsy errors that made their eventual apprehension inevitable. While they may have believed they were executing a clever plan, their actions left an undeniable trail of physical and digital evidence. A prime example of this was the presence of a complete disposal kit in the trunk, which contained cleaning products, garbage bags, and gloves, yet also contained a baseball bat. In an almost satirical oversight, this bat had the name of a former boyfriend written clearly on it in permanent marker, which initially led police to investigate him before his rock-solid alibi on a fishing boat ruled him out. Furthermore, the suspects attempted to clean the crime scene at their rental home, but left behind a broken door, unmistakable bloodstains, and towels that perfectly matched the towels found wrapping the body in the trunk of the car. Their digital footprint was equally prominent. Rather than disabling their mobile devices, the suspects left a clear trail of global positioning system location history that placed all three of them at the residence during the critical window of the crime, and subsequently tracked them to the Rio Hotel. In their haste to flee the hotel, they left behind personal belongings, including the identification card of Kelsey Turner and a notebook belonging to the victim. This level of carelessness highlights a common trait among such criminals, whose actions are dictated by panic and a lack of foresight, rather than any calculated criminal genius. The police utilize these digital and physical clues to rapidly build their case. By tracking the suspect's mobile phone location data, they were able to establish a precise timeline of the events. This digital evidence, combined with latent fingerprints recovered from the vehicle that matched the roommates, Diana Pina and John Logan Kennison, provided the necessary probable cause to secure arrest warrants. The swift execution of these warrants across state lines, particularly the apprehension of Kelsey Turner in California by a criminal apprehension team, demonstrates the efficiency of modern law enforcement when tracking suspects who flee the jurisdiction of the crime. Drawing profound life lessons from this tragic case is essential to prevent similar occurrences in the future. The most important lesson is the necessity of maintaining firm boundaries in all relationships, especially those involving financial assistance. While generosity is a virtue, unconditional and unmonitored financial support can foster dependency, entitlement, and eventually resentment. It is critical for individuals to recognize when their kindness is being exploited, and to seek the advice of trusted family members, financial advisors, or legal professionals. When attempting to end a financially manipulative relationship, it is highly advisable to do so in a public space, or through legal intermediaries, rather than confronting the individuals in a private setting where personal safety could be compromised. This is especially true if there are indications of volatile behavior or association, hot individuals who have a history of misconduct. Additionally, this case serves as a poignant warning about the vulnerability of our aging population. As individuals grow older, they may experience cognitive changes, such as the early stages of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, which can impair their judgment and make them far more susceptible to manipulation. Family members and partners must remain vigilant, actively monitoring the financial and social well-being of their elderly loved ones. When unusual financial patterns emerge, such as large sums of money being transferred to new acquaintances, immediate and compassionate intervention is necessary to protect the individual from potential harm. For law enforcement, several key insights can be shared to facilitate faster apprehensions in similar complex cases. First, the rapid integration of digital forensics is paramount. In the modern era, mobile devices, location history, and financial transactions leave a continuous digital trail. Establishing dedicated digital forensics units that can obtain and analyze this data within the first 48 hours of an investigation is crucial. Second, interstate cooperation and communication between law enforcement agencies must be seamless. Because criminals often cross state lines to evade capture, established protocols for sharing information and executing warrants across jurisdictions can significantly reduce the time a suspect remains at large. Finally, maintaining close and respectful relationships with the victim's family and friends can yield invaluable insights, as was demonstrated by the detailed information provided by the victim's partner, which immediately pointed investigators in the correct direction. To fully understand the tragedy, we must look at the life of Dr. Thomas Burchard. Born in Boston in the year 1948, he was raised in an environment of intellectual curiosity and academic achievement. His father was a professor at Harvard University, and his mother worked as a librarian, ensuring that his childhood was filled with kep ite hat, a deep appreciation for learning and literature. This academic foundation led him to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, where he attended medical school to specialize in child psychiatry. His subsequent residencies at prestigious institutions, including Massachusetts General Hospital, Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and the University of California, Los Angeles, prepared him for a career dedicated to helping the most vulnerable members of society. For decades, Dr. Burchard was a pillar of the community in Monterey County, California, where he served as the only child psychiatrist for a significant period. Known for his warm demeanor, large white beard, and generous heart, he was affectionately referred to by some as Santa. His practice was characterized by deep empathy, and he frequently went above and beyond to assist his young patients through some of the most challenging times of their lives. His generosity, however, was not limited to his professional practice. He frequently extended financial and personal help to individuals he perceived to be in distress, a trait that unfortunately made him a target for those who wished to take advantage of his kindness. In the years 2002, Dr. Burchard met Judy Earp, a single mother, during a trip to Las Vegas, Nevada. The two quickly formed a deep connection, dating long distance for a year before Dr. Burchard moved in with her and became a father figure to her 3 youngest children. Over the course of the next 17 years, they built a stable, loving life together in Salinas, California, frequently returning to Las Vegas for medical conferences and leisure. By the time he reached his early 70s, Dr. Burchard was still dedicated to his patients, but his health had begun to decline. His partner noticed signs consistent with the early stages of cognitive impairment, which may have further compromised his ability to recognize the dangers of the manipulative relationship he had entered. 2 years prior to his death, Dr. Burchard met Kelsey Turner, a 25-year-old single mother who was struggling financially. Seeking to help her, he began assisting with her rent and living expenses. Over time, this assistance grew exponentially, with Dr. Burchard paying for her housing, car lease, and credit card bills. Despite the concerns of his partner, who documented that the financial support had surpassed $750,000. Dr. Burchard found it difficult to sever ties, believing that the young woman simply needed help to get her life together. In an effort to reduce friction, he eventually rented a home for her and her roommates in Las Vegas, Nevada. However, the situation became unsustainable. Urged by his partner to end the financial arrangement, Dr. Burchard traveled to Las Vegas on March 1, 2019, with the sole purpose of informing her that the financial support would be discontinued. This decision set off a chain of events that would end in tragedy. Over the course of the weekend, arguments ensued at the Las Vegas residence, culminating in physical violence. According to subsequent court testimonies, the situation escalated when the young woman discovered messages on the doctor's phone, discussing her personal circumstances, leading to an outburst of anger. Her boyfriend, John Logan Kennison, became involved, resulting in a severe physical altercation that left the doctor injured. Despite his injuries, Dr. Burchard sought to defuse the situation, offering to claim he had been the victim of a random altercation. However, instead of obtaining the medical assistance he required, the situation deteriorated further in the early hours of March 4, 2019. The victim was placed in the back of the Mercedes-Benz, where further violence occurred, ultimately resulting in his passing. The suspects then attempted to conceal the crime by driving the vehicle to a remote desert location, where they abandoned it with the body in the trunk. Following the discovery of the vehicle on March 7th, the investigation proceeded rapidly. The suspects fled to a hotel, where they attempted to monitor the news before dispersing. Diana Pina eventually chose to contact law enforcement, providing a detailed account of the events that transpired in the home. Her cooperation allowed detectives to understand the precise dynamics of the crime and the roles played by each individual. The legal resolutions brought a measure of justice to the tragic case. In May of 2022, John Logan Kennison entered a guilty plea and was sentenced to a term of 18 to 45 years in the Nevada Department of Corrections. Later that year, Kelsey Turner entered an Alford plea to a charge of second-degree murder, acknowledging that the state possessed sufficient evidence to secure a conviction, and was sentenced to 10 to 25 years in prison. Diana Pina was sentenced to 3 years of probation for her role as an accessory. This somber case serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of protecting the vulnerable, establishing healthy boundaries, and honoring the memory of those who dedicated their lives to the service of others. The legacy of Dr. Thomas Burchard is defined not by the tragic circumstances of his passing, but by the decades of healing, compassion, and kindness he bestowed upon countless children and families throughout his distinguished career. Through education, awareness, and vigilant community support, society can work to ensure that such acts of exploitation are recognized and prevented, allowing the triumph of justice and the protection of the innocent to remain paramount. The vast and silent expanse of the Nevada desert has long held secrets. But on a clear morning in March in the year 2019, one of its secrets was brought to light. Las Vegas is a city internationally recognized for its bright lights, grand entertainment, and the promise of recreation. It is a destination where visitors arrive to escape the routine of daily life and enjoy the vibrant atmosphere. However, beyond the glittering strip of resorts lies a harsh, undeveloped landscape of sand and scrub, where the desert wind carries a quiet stillness. On the 7th day of March in that year, a local resident was exploring the rugged terrain in a newly acquired four-wheel drive pickup truck. The citizen was navigating the dirt paths of eastern Clark County when an unusual sight disrupted the natural landscape. Resting in a remote area where no standard passenger car should be able to travel was a blue two-door Mercedes-Benz coupe. The vehicle was parked awkwardly in the brush, completely out of place in an environment meant only for off-road machinery. Believing that the luxury vehicle had been stolen and abandoned by joyriders, the citizen contacted the local police department to report the coordinates of the car. When the patrol officers arrived at the remote scene, the caller had already departed, but the vehicle remained exactly as described. The initial plan of the responding officers was straightforward, as they intended to conduct a standard inventory of the contents of the vehicle and arrange for a commercial tow truck to remove it from the desert. However, as soon as the officers opened the doors of the coupe, the nature of their mission shifted dramatically. Inside the passenger cabin, the officers immediately observed significant evidence of physical trauma. Biological stains were present throughout the rear of the cabin, concentrated heavily on the back of the driver's seat, the rear passenger bench, and the fabric of the ceiling liner. The patterns of these stains indicated that a violent struggle had occurred within the confined space of the vehicle, and the damage to the headliner suggested that a weapon had been swung repeatedly. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, the patrolmen halted their inventory and requested the immediate assistance of the homicide section and the crime scene analytics unit. Before the investigators arrived, the officers conducted a visual check of the rest of the vehicle. When they opened the trunk, they found a substantial collection of household bedding, including blankets and sheets. Upon carefully parting the layers of fabric, the officers discovered the remains of a human being. The homicide detectives arrived shortly thereafter to take control of the scene. The team carefully documented the position of the vehicle, the environmental conditions, and the external details before towing the entire car, with the deceased still inside, to the secure garage of the crime laboratory. This controlled environment allowed the forensic experts to extract the body without compromising any trace evidence that might reside on the exterior or interior of the vehicle. When the investigators removed the body in the laboratory garage, they were struck by the physical appearance of the victim. The deceased was an elderly gentleman with a full white beard, wearing a classic sweater vest and a bow tie. The detectives noted that the man looked like a grandfatherly figure, someone whose appearance did not suggest a lifestyle of hat-I-go-hat, risk choices, or dangerous associations. He did not look like an individual who would find himself in a situation of extreme violence. In the trunk of the car, alongside the bedding, the investigators recovered a credit card bearing the name of Dr. Thomas Burchard. A rapid computer search of the name revealed that a missing person report had been filed for Dr. Burchard in California, and the physical description of the missing man matched the body in the trunk perfectly. However, when the detectives ran the license plate of the Mercedes-Benz, they discovered that the vehicle was registered to an individual residing in San Francisco. This registered owner was of Asian descent and possessed a much smaller physical build than the victim. When the San Francisco Police Department attempted to contact the owner, they learned that the individual was out of the country, leaving the detectives with a growing list of questions regarding how the vehicle of one person came to contain the body of another. To understand how this tragic outcome occurred, the detectives turned their attention to the life and history of Dr. Thomas Burchard. Born in Boston in the year 1948, Dr. Burchard was raised in an environment of hot ago, hot intellectual achievement. His father was a professor at Harvard University, and his mother was a dedicated librarian, ensuring that his childhood was filled with capite, hot literature, and academic curiosity. Pursuing a career in medicine, he attended the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, where he specialized in child psychiatry. His dedication to the mental health of children led him to complete prestigious residencies at Massachusetts General Hospital, Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and the University of California, Los Angeles. Eventually, Dr. Burchard settled in Monterey County, California, where for a long duration he was the sole child psychiatrist serving the community. His gentle demeanor, combined with his distinctive white beard, earned him the affectionate nickname of Santa Claus among his young patients and their families. He was known for his extraordinary generosity, often providing free care to families in financial distress and offering support to those who had nowhere else to turn. Over a career spanning several decades, Dr. Burchard helped hundreds of young people navigate the most difficult challenges of their lives, establishing a reputation as a compassionate and selfless healer. Despite his professional success and his deep connection to the community, Dr. Burchard remained single until his early 50s. In the year 2002, his life changed when he met Judy Earp during a trip to Las Vegas. Judy Earp was a single mother who had recently experienced the end of her marriage. While the other members of their travel group spent their time in the casinos, the doctor and Judy spent hours talking, attending performances, and discovering a deep mutual compatibility. After a year of maintaining a long-distance relationship, they decided to share a home in Salinas, California, where Dr. Burchard became a devoted father figure to the 3 youngest children of Judy. The couple eventually became engaged, building a stable and loving partnership that endured for 17 years. They frequently returned to Las Vegas, the city where they first met, to attend annual medical conferences and enjoy brief vacations. By the year 2019, at 71 years of age, Dr. Burchard was still maintaining a practice, but his physical and cognitive health had begun to decline. Judy Earp observed signs of early-stage dementia or Alzheimer's disease. Noting that the doctor was struggling with hat memory lapses and was beginning to plan for his retirement. It was during this period of vulnerability that Dr. Burchard undertook a sudden, unexpected journey. On Friday, the first day of March in the year 2019, he booked a last-minute flight to Las Vegas with plans to return the following Monday. When he did not arrive home on the scheduled flight, Judy Earp immediately sensed that something was wrong. She contacted the police to file a missing person report, explaining that the doctor was a highly disciplined man who would never fail to return home without communication. She informed the investigators that the doctor had traveled to Las Vegas to visit a young woman named Kelsey Turner. Judy Earp explained that the doctor had met Kelsey Turner 2 years prior, when she was a 25-year-old single mother struggling with significant financial difficulties. Consistent with his generous nature, Dr. Burchard began assisting her by paying her rent, her car payments, and other daily expenses. However, Judy Earp soon realized that this relationship was highly asymmetrical and that the young woman was taking advantage of the kindness of the doctor. While the doctor had assisted many individuals throughout his life, the financial demands of Kelsey Turner were unprecedented. An initial estimate of the funds provided by the doctor to Kelsey Turner was approximately $300,000. but a thorough examination of financial records later revealed that the total sum exceeded $750,000. Judy Earp had repeatedly warned the doctor that the situation was unsustainable and dangerous, urging him to sever the financial connection. In an effort to reduce the tension between Judy and the young woman, the doctor had agreed to rent a house for Kelsey Turner in Las Vegas, hoping that the physical distance would bring a resolution to the conflict. However, after learning of this new arrangement, Judy Earp finally convinced the doctor that he must end the financial support completely. The sole purpose of the journey of Dr. Burchard to Las Vegas on the first day of March was to deliver this message in person and terminate the financial arrangement. On the second day of March, the doctor sent a message to Judy, stating that he had resolved the situation and was looking forward to returning home on Monday. But on Sunday, Judy received a highly unusual text message from the phone of the doctor requesting that she send money. The grammar and phrasing of the message were entirely inconsistent with the writing style of the doctor, leading Judy to believe that Kelsey Turner had taken the phone in an attempt to access their financial accounts. After Judy replied demanding a phone call, the mobile device of the doctor was turned off and all communication ceased. Armed with this critical background information, the Las Vegas detectives initiated a welfare check at the residence of Kelsey Turner. When patrol officers arrived at the home, they found the property completely quiet. Mail was accumulating at the front door, and there was no sign of activity inside. For the investigators, this suggested that the occupants had suddenly vacated the premises, leaving no forwarding address. This sudden departure, coinciding with the disappearance of Dr. Burchard, strongly indicated that Kelsey Turner was directly involved in the matter. The urgent priority of the police was to locate her, as she was the last known contact of a deceased individual. The subsequent autopsy of Dr. Burchard confirmed that his death was the result of blunt force trauma to the head, ruling the case a homicide. The forensic team working on the Mercedes-Benz coupe also uncovered a critical piece of evidence in the trunk. Alongside the cleaning supplies, trash bags, and gloves, they discovered a baseball bat. Written clearly on the bat in permanent marker was the name Greg Haggio. The discovery of the name on the weapon led investigators to believe they had a direct link to the perpetrator. A records search revealed that Greg Haggio was indeed the boyfriend of Kelsey Turner, and a warrant was prepared. However, when the detectives located and interviewed Greg Haggio, they discovered a different reality. The young man explained that he and Kelsey Turner had ended their relationship a month prior to the incident due to his disapproval of her chaotic lifestyle. He had left the residence abruptly, leaving many of his personal belongings behind, including the baseball bat. To verify his account, the detectives analyzed the historical location data of his mobile phone, which confirmed that he was working as a deckhand on a commercial fishing vessel far from Las Vegas, aphmau, the time of the tragedy. This evidence successfully eliminated Greg Haggio as a suspect, demonstrating that the presence of his name on the bat was merely a consequence of his belongings being left at the home of the suspect. With Greg Haggio cleared, the focus returned entirely to Kelsey Turner. The detectives obtained a search warrant for her Las Vegas residence, entering the home through an unlocked door. Inside, they found immediate confirmation that the house was the primary crime scene. The investigators discovered extensive biological stains in several rooms, a door that had been violently broken off its hinges, and a strong odor of chemical cleaners, indicating an amateurish attempt to sanitize the environment. The detectives also recovered blue and white towels that matched the towels found wrapping the body in the trunk of the Mercedes-Benz. Despite the overwhelming evidence pointing to a violent struggle within the home, Kelsey Turner and her associates were nowhere to be found. The landlord of the property confirmed that Dr. Burchard had been paying the monthly rent and that Kelsey Turner lived there with 2 roommates, identified as Diana Pena and John Logan Kennison. John Logan Kennison was identified as the current boyfriend of Kelsey Turner, and a background check revealed that he had recently completed a prison sentence in Nevada for drug-related offenses. Diana Pena was a friend of Kelsey, who had recently moved into the home to share expenses. To reconstruct the events of early March, the detectives subpoenaed the mobile phone records of all 3 residents. The location data revealed that the phones of Kelsey Turner, John Logan Kennison, and Diana Pena were all active at the residence during the late hours of March 3rd and the early hours of March 4th, 2019. Shortly after this period, all 3 devices moved in unison toward the area of the Rio Hotel, where they were simultaneously powered down. The detectives contacted the security team at the Rio Hotel and learned that Diana Pena had rented a room there, which the group had abruptly abandoned, leaving behind all of their personal belongings. A search of the abandoned hotel room yielded several highly significant items. The investigators recovered personal identification documents belonging to Kelsey Turner, prescription medications, and a black notebook that had belonged to Dr. Burchard. Inside the notebook, the doctor had documented the escalating demands of Kelsey Turner and the extreme methods she was employing to maintain his financial support. This included false allegations of illegal conduct designed to destroy his professional reputation. For a child psychiatrist who had spent his entire life dedicated to the safety and well-being of young people, such accusations were incredibly damaging, representing a direct threat to his legacy and his peace of mind. Computer forensic experts later examined the devices of the doctor and confirmed that there was absolutely no truth to these claims, proving that they were entirely fabricated by Kelsey Turner as a tool for extortion. She was desperate to keep the financial support flowing, and she was willing to use any means necessary to prevent the doctor from walking away. The combination of the physical evidence at the residence, the matching items in the vehicle, the recovery of the personal notebook of the doctor, and the biological evidence provided the legal foundation for arrest warrants. A specialized criminal apprehension team was tasked with finding the suspects. Within a week, investigators located Kelsey Turner at the home of an acquaintance in California, where she was accompanied by John Logan Kennison. Because the arrest warrant for Kennison had not yet been finalized at that precise moment, he was temporarily released, while Kelsey Turner was taken into custody. She declined to speak with the investigators, maintaining a cold and uncooperative silence. However, the forensic analysis of the fingerprints found on the Mercedes-Benz and the baseball bat soon returned matches for both Diana Pena and John Logan Kennison, leading to formal murder charges for both individuals. The breakthrough in the investigation came shortly thereafter, when Diana Pena surrendered to the authorities. Realizing the gravity of the situation and hoping to obtain a favorable legal resolution, she agreed to cooperate fully and provide a detailed account of the events. Diana Pena explained that she had met Kelsey Turner through mutual acquaintances and had moved into the Las Vegas home shortly after Turner relocated there. She confirmed that Dr. Burchard was the primary source of financial support for Kelsey, paying for the house, the luxury vehicle, and the daily expenses of the household. Diana Pena stated that Kelsey referred to the doctor as her whale, viewing him primarily as a financial asset rather than a human being. According to her testimony, Kelsey was highly aware that the doctor was traveling to Las Vegas to terminate their arrangement, and the atmosphere in the home was extremely tense prior to his arrival. On the morning of March 2nd, after the doctor arrived, Kelsey Turner took his mobile phone and searched through his private messages. She discovered correspondence between the doctor and her mother discussing the possibility of seeking custody of her young son due to her unstable lifestyle. This discovery caused Kelsey to enter a state of extreme anger. She began physically assaulting the doctor in the vehicle, screaming and striking him while Diana Pena sat in the back seat. After they returned to the residence, the doctor retreated to his upstairs room to avoid further conflict. However, the hostility did not subside. Over the course of the evening, both Kelsey Turner and John Logan Kennison took turns confronting the doctor, shouting at him through the door. Eventually, Kelsey demanded that Kennison physically assault the doctor, and Kennison forced his way into the room with a baseball bat. Diana Pena described hearing the physical altercation and rushing upstairs to intervene. She found the doctor injured on the floor, his face showing signs of severe trauma. Despite his injuries, the generous doctor attempted to de-escalate the situation, offering to tell medical staff that he had been the victim of a street robbery to protect his assailants from police involvement. Diana Pena helped the doctor downstairs and attempted to clean his wounds. Early the following morning, Kelsey Turner and John Logan Kennison agreed to transport the doctor to a hospital. They assisted him into the back seat of the Mercedes-Benz. However, while the doctor waited in the vehicle, Kelsey and Kennison returned to the house. The doctor expressed his fear to Diana Pena, stating his belief that they intended to take his life and expressing concern for her safety as well. His fears were realized minutes later when Kelsey returned to the garage and ordered Diana to clean the interior of the house. While inside the home, Diana Pena heard Kelsey screaming once again, urging Kennison to attack the doctor. When she ran back to the garage, she found John Logan Kennison holding a firearm that was covered in biological evidence, which had been used as an implement of blunt force. Kelsey Turner informed her that the doctor was deceased. Terrified for her Ove kept no life, and believing she had no choice but to comply, Diana Pena accompanied the couple to the Rio Hotel, where they remained for several days, searching the internet and local news for any mention of the abandoned vehicle. When the news of the discovery of the car was broadcast, the group panicked, realizing how easily the vehicle would be traced to them. Diana Pena eventually chose to break away from the group and contact the authorities, a decision she later described as the moment she felt safest, as the confines of a secure holding cell protected her from the dangerous individuals she had associated with. With the detailed testimony of Diana Pena, the police easily tracked down John Logan Kennison, who had returned to Las Vegas to hide at the home of his mother. He was arrested without incident. In the legal proceedings that followed, the justice system held a hot participant accountable. Diana Pena pleaded guilty to a charge of accessory to a felony and was sentenced to 3 years of probation, reflecting her cooperation and her role as a witness for the prosecution. In May of the year 2022, John Logan Kennison accepted responsibility for his actions, pleading guilty to second-degree murder with the use of a deadly weapon. He was sentenced to a term of 18 to 45 years in the Nevada state prison system. Later that year, Kelsey Turner entered an Alford plea to a charge of second-degree murder. Under this plea, she did not formally confess to the physical acts, but acknowledged that the prosecution possessed more than sufficient evidence to secure a conviction at trial. She was sentenced to a term of 10 to 25 years in prison. The motives driving this crime are a tragic reflection of extreme entitlement, manipulation, and the dark side of financial dependency. Kelsey Turner had built a lifestyle based on luxury, nightclub attendance, and social media validation, all funded by the labor and generosity of an elderly child psychiatrist. When the doctor attempted to establish a healthy boundary and withdraw his financial support, the illusion of her easy lifestyle was threatened. Rather than accepting the reality and seeking legitimate employment, she reacted with desperate anger and manipulation. The situation was further aggravated by her fear of losing custody of her child, a fear that turned into violent resentment against the very man who had supported her. These dynamics of financial exploitation and psychological grooming are unfortunately common in cases involving wealthy, older benefactors and younger, manipulative individuals. The perpetrators often view their supporters not as human beings worthy of respect, but as resources to be exploited. The sophistication of the criminals in this case was remarkably low, presenting a clear contrast between their desire to evade justice and their complete inability to cover their tracks. While they attempted to clean the crime scene with household chemicals, they left substantial biological evidence throughout the home and the vehicle. They used a weapon with the name of a former boyfriend written on it, mistakenly believing that this would redirect suspicion. Yet they failed to realize that modern digital forensics would easily verify his alibi. They wrapped the body in household bedding that matched the towels left in the home, creating a direct physical link. Furthermore, they fled to a local hotel but left behind crucial personal items, including the identification of Kelsey Turner and the personal notebook of the victim, which detailed her extortion attempts. Their actions were impulsive, chaotic, and entirely lacking